Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to read you a story called Lines, Bars, and Circles How William Playfair Invented Graphs. William Playfair was a dreamer. He saw the world differently from other people. Will was also a joker who saw humor where others didn't. He could be very annoying, especially to his sisters and brothers. You guys don't know anything about that, right? When Will was 12 years old, his father died. Soon after, Will's oldest brother, John, moved back to the family's home near Dundee, Scotland, and took over Will's education. The brothers were nothing alike. John was a scientist and a mathematician. He saw the world in numbers and formulas. With John in charge, Will had to shape up. No more playing practical jokes or drawing fanciful pictures. Will would have to learn how to think and behave more like a scientist, more like John. Naturally, Will thought John was very annoying. Nevertheless, John was a good teacher. He taught Will how to measure temperature on a thermometer and to correctly and clearly record the information each day in tables and charts. Will found himself becoming an excellent mathematician and a bit more like John. But Will couldn't stop dreaming, nor could he stop seeing the world in his own way. That made him restless, and that made him more annoying than ever to John. So when Will was 14, he left home and got a job working for an inventor named Andrew Meikle. Meikle was a dreamer too. Meikle designed and built the machines used in grain mills. He taught Will how to draw plans and make many different kinds of machines. Now Will could picture a magnificent future for himself. He would have to untold. He would have untold riches, fame, and glory. After a few years, though, Meikle's workshop felt too small to hold all Will's grand dreams. So Will got a new job. He became an assistant to James Watt, a famous inventor and draftsman who Will worshipped for his cleverness and creativity. Will's days were spent problem solving and drawing detailed plans for machinery. He was in the thick of the action now. In Watt's workshop, he met dozens of famous scientists and inventors. Inspired, he started thinking of inventions of his own. In fact, Will was so busy picturing new ideas, he didn't pay enough attention to his work. He wound up annoying his boss, who called Will a blunderer. Watt complained that Will took too many shortcuts and made too many mistakes. Eventually, Will decided to strike out on his own. While working for Watt, Will had invented a machine that made beautiful objects out of silver, so he decided to open up a shop. In it, he sold all sorts of splendid silver goods. Fancy buckles, superior horseshoes, special spoons. Nevertheless, the shop failed. It seemed Will was better at envisioning new ideas than running a business. Losing his business was disappointing, but it still didn't stop Will from picturing himself coming out on top. To get there, he would try writing articles, editing newspapers, making cannon parts for the British Army, and even running a bank. But every venture failed. Worse, his schemes often got him into trouble. He even came close to being thrown in jail. If only people could see things as he did. If they could, he was sure he wouldn't be flat broke. He wouldn't be in trouble with the law. He finally would have untold riches, fame, and glory. When he wasn't dreaming up new business schemes, Will wrote books. It earned him a bit of money and allowed him to write about things he was passionate about: history, politics, and economics. For one of his books, Will didn't have all the information he needed to complete a chart. To solve this problem, he drew two numbered lines, one running up and down that represented quantities, and one running along the bottom that represented time. Next, he plotted dots on the chart to represent the data he did have. Then he connected the dots. With these steps, he had turned numbers and times into a picture. He had created the line graph. The line graph had turned out to be more than just a clever way of showing information. It made the information clearer and easier to remember, too. When he wanted to include a second chart that had even fewer details, he came up with another good idea. He grouped the information into chunks. Now Will had created the bar graph. He knew he was onto something with his new charts. King Louis Branch also liked Will's crafts. He agreed that they were easy to understand. In fact, the king liked them so much that he rewarded Will with a royal permit. The permit allowed Will to build a steam powered rolling mill that would manufacture all kinds of objects out of steel. If it was successful, he'd make plenty of money. But alas, before the mill got rolling, the king was overthrown. Will had to run for his life. Once he arrived safely in England, Will kept writing and dreaming up new ways of showing numbers in pictures. Another time, he divided a circle into slices to show the relationship of its parts to the whole. This was the first pie chart. With all of his charts, Will believed he had invented valuable tools for sharing hard to understand information. What a future he could see for himself now. His glorious destiny must be assured at last. But it was not to be. At least, not in his lifetime. The scientists of his day turned up their noses at Will's graphs when they saw them as nothing but a distraction. Numbers showed serious work. Colorful illustrations did not. They also thought of Will as a ne'er do well with a strong string of business failures behind him. They wouldn't believe someone like that could have invented anything truly valuable. Maybe they would have taken him seriously if he'd been more like his brother John. Yet, if William Playfair had been like his brother, he might not have invented the charts. It's true, Will was at times a scoundrel and a schemer, but he was also an independent thinker who was able to see things differently from those around him. It took almost 100 years, but eventually the graphs caught on. Now, line graphs, bar graphs, and pie charts are used around the world to explain all kinds of information, just as Will had pictured. Isn't that great? So, in this book, if you go into Epic, you can go ahead and look at all of this back matter, which explains more about William and his charts. So, you'll learn about what happened later in his life as he was not always successful in financial endeavors. And if you want, you can check out some other books that might remind you of this one. But I just thought it would be really fun for us to see about where these graphs came from. I hope you enjoyed my read aloud today and enjoy your work with the virtual classroom.